Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. This is absolutely amazing, amazing news. In a couple of seconds, you will hear former President Donald Trump, future President Donald Trump. You will hear his lawyer on the immunity case. You will hear legal scholars talking about the victory for Trump. Everything that I've been saying, hit subscribe to this channel right now. I'll give you the exact reason that the Supreme Court has already ruled that Trump is immune from prosecution over a speech. I'll tell you in about 30 to 40 seconds. Everything that I've been saying has proven not only to be accurate, but I've pretty much predicted exactly what's taking place. Hit subscribe right now. In 30 to 40 seconds, I'll explain everything to you, and you will hear Trump, his lawyer, and a whole bunch of pretty amazing people talk about this victory a long time in the making. Number one, Trump is not immune from prosecution for an actual criminal act. Number two, Trump is immune from prosecution for performing a speech. So share this wonderful live stream with anyone who thinks that Trump is guilty of trying to overthrow the country or fomenting a rebellion. He performed a speech. That is not like selling the planet to Martians. He performed a speech in which the January committee selectively edited his words, omitted context, and refused to include the words peaceful. He told people to peacefully go march, patriotically and peacefully. So the Supreme Court is going to look at the case because they have not been given enough evidence to warrant simply going straight to trial for a speech. He did not try to foment a rebellion. He did not try to target anyone in particular. You will hear the Honorable Chuck Schumer and his words targeting Justice Kavanaugh, which led directly to somebody trying to take Kavanaugh's life. Why doesn't the special counsel indict and prosecute and convict Chuck Schumer? That's because he's a Democrat who put Brett Kavanaugh's life at risk. Democrats don't care about the rule of law when it comes to a Democratic senator putting Supreme Court justices at risk. But Trump didn't do that. He did not tell anyone to commit a crime. He did not know anyone that committed a crime. He did not say anything to anyone for them to commit a crime. So you will hear right now former President Donald Trump, his lawyer, but the Supreme Court essentially gave him immunity. Because this is about a speech which preceded criminal behavior. That was every single day in the news and within the Democratic Party, and that summer, where I agree with why people peacefully demonstrated that summer of that year. But we had billions in property damage. Is that the fault of Democrats? And we had 20 lives lost. Is that the fault of Democrats and their words and their fomenting discontent and chaos and mayhem throughout the world or throughout the country? So they gave him essentially immunity for a speech which prolongs the special counsel, and hit subscribe and you will hear Trump in a second and his lawyer and other legal scholars until 2025. Once he's president and there's nothing stopping Trump, he's up in Michigan, he's up in Pennsylvania, he's almost up in Wisconsin. It's going to be a landslide. Once he becomes president, the special counsel's part of the executive branch. He'll do away with it because it's completely partisan. It has nothing to do with the rule of law. This has everything to do with partisan, petulant, vicious, malicious, prosecution going after your direct political rival. The Supreme Court just handed an astonishing victory. Vox, you should see the headlines on MSNBC. The fix is in. It's hilarious. It is hilarious. They tried to accuse Trump of something he didn't do yet again, and the Supreme Court is not falling for it. Thank God for the Supreme Court. Hit subscribe. Let's get to President Trump right now and the argument that won in the Supreme Court.
Good afternoon. I'd like to make some comments on behalf of President Trump. First of all, this was a momentous day. This is the first time in our nation's history that a sitting president has decided to prosecute his major opponent who's leading in all the polls in the country. The issues that the court had to deal with today were momentous. Whether or not a president of the United States could be prosecuted for carrying out his responsibilities, doing his job as president. We can't have a country where every 4 years there's a cycle of political recrimination, where one administration attacks a prior administration, when in fact that candidate is leading in the polls and will be the next president of the United States. As our legal team, as our appellate team made clear, that would be a disaster for our country. That would be a direct attack on democracy, and that cannot happen.
Here's one thing you need to do.
What was very significant today, and I'm sure you all caught it, is the special counsel conceded that if it was President Obama who was being prosecuted for a drug, it's not, when it's President Trump, then they're taking the position that there's no immunity for presidential acts that were required when a president is carrying out his job responsibilities. If we adopt what the special counsel wants, if we adopt what President Biden wants, then we open the Pandora's box to political prosecution after political prosecution after political prosecution. In fact, Joe Biden could be prosecuted for trying to stop this man from becoming the next president of the United States. We don't need political prosecutions, we need political process. I'd like to introduce President Trump.
Well, I want to thank you all, and we had a very momentous day in terms of what was learned and what they've conceded. They conceded two major points that were right in doing it. I don't think they had much of a choice, but they're very, very big, very powerful points. And I think we're doing very well. I think it's very unfair when a political opponent, is prosecuted by the DOJ, by Biden's DOJ. So they're losing in every poll. They're losing in almost every demographic. Numbers came out today that are really very mind-boggling if you happen to be Joe Biden. And I think they feel this is the way they're going to try and win. And that's not the way it goes. That'll be bedlam in the country. It's a very bad thing. It's a very bad precedent. As we said, it's the opening of a Pandora's box, and it's a very sad thing that's happened with this whole situation. When they talk about threat to democracy, that's your real threat to democracy. And I feel that as a president, you have to have immunity. Very simple. And if you don't, as an example, if this case were lost on immunity, and I did nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong. I'm working for the country, and I worked on very hard on voter fraud, because we have to have free elections. We have to have strong borders. We have to have free elections. Those two things, almost above all. And we found tremendous voter fraud.
The rebuttal from Democrats is completely irrelevant. Nicholas, thank you again. To my super chat, thank you. Nicholas in Australia, thank you so much. Paul, Nicholas, thank you. Everybody here, thank you so very much. To my super chat, to the members, thank you. The rebuttal from Democrats is irrelevant here, completely and utterly irrelevant. Oh, well, there was no criminal activity found, and he lost fair and square. Irrelevant. If he is given what he believes as president, credible information, he has a right to speak to the country via a speech or a televised moment, whatever. He has the right to do so. And if people, after his speech, commit crimes that has nothing to do with Trump, it has to do perhaps with what Vivek Ramaswamy was talking about. This is such an overt attempt at imprisoning a former president for something he didn't do. He did not commit a rebellion. Oh, and by the way, he just got a huge victory with immunity. Want to wait for the 9-0 unanimous decision overturning the Colorado ban? How utterly inept can you be as the Democratic Party? How miserably failed can you be at just politics? Just basic politics. You have every advantage from late night comedians to like social media algorithms to Twitter for most of the past, 10 years or so, up until recently with Elon Musk, to the Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN. Oh my God, they're so upset today. I can't wait to hear how happy they'll be with a unanimous Supreme Court decision overturning the Colorado ban. What did you think was going to happen, Democrats? You thought you were going to imprison Trump because of a speech? Because you thought that he committed a rebellion? Because there were people who were such imbeciles, who were so stupid as to think that Trump tried to overthrow the country because he didn't think that Democrats were fair and neutral like they were with Bernie Sanders when they cheated Bernie Sanders? Democrats don't even have a fair and neutral primary. They don't even have a functioning primary. And so, yeah, Trump did not trust the results. Just like Democrats in the Atlantic published an article, they are not going to, they were publishing an article the other day on how to stop certification. They're going to do not only the exact same thing as Trump, because they did pretty much that in 2016, but they're paving the way not to allow Trump. They're going to try every way possible to prevent Trump, even things Trump didn't do. He did not tell anyone to commit a crime. People committed crimes because they had free will, which is something Democrats don't understand. That's why you can ban a whole lot of things. People commit evil acts, and you have to counter that, okay, with reciprocal, force in certain situations. Because people commit evil acts. You can't control the minds of human beings. The government cannot save you. You have to save yourself, or you have to, take responsibility for yourself. Which is why the Second Amendment is so important. But the point, what I'm trying to tell you is people committed crimes because they decided to do so. Had literally nothing to do with Trump. Just like Democrats say, well, that person tried to take Kavanaugh's life and it had nothing to do with Schumer. Or people committed crimes, billions in property damage, had nothing to do with Democratic congresswomen saying, get in people's faces, make them feel unwelcomed. Trump did not try to overthrow the country because of selectively edited videos, okay? He didn't try to overthrow or foment a rebellion because MSNBC and CNN selectively edited certain content and videos and ignored exculpatory evidence that the DOJ and the government had all the time, which acquitted a couple of people that were imprisoned. So, was January 6th a terrible day? Absolutely. It was a terrible day. Horrible day. Should never have taken place. Trump should have been, I think, politically more savvy and smarter than to have that speech. He should have. He made a mistake. President Trump did, but it wasn't criminal. It wasn't criminal. The Democrats make the most absurd, stupid, outlandish leaps of logic. You think he tried to commit a rebellion, an unarmed attempt to overthrow the government with doors being opened? With doors being opened by law enforcement? How stupid can you be to try to imprison a former president? And then they say, oh, Trump, he's tarnished the presidency. You have had a temper tantrum. Democrats have had a temper tantrum of biblical proportions, the same Bible they don't believe in biblical proportions. since 2016. November of 2016, we crossed the Rubicon into liberal insanity. They have not stopped, and they've lost every step of the way. You think Biden as president is winning? The economy stinks. The world is completely collapsing. And, more atrocities have taken place throughout the world, including the United States, with people trying to enter the country. More people have lost their lives. AOC doesn't care. There are nobody shedding tears on the Democratic Party. Only when Trump is in office, then they shed tears. But people were safer. More people have been separated, more families separated than ever before. Not a care in the world from Democrats, but they carried with Trump. And Trump reversed that law immediately, pretty soon after there was an uproar. Now worse things are taking place. So, anyway, this is a complete catastrophe for them, a complete and utter catastrophe for Democrats. Let's continue.
We have a list of it. We have some findings if you want it. The press doesn't like reporting it, but we found tremendous voter fraud, determinative voter fraud. Here I left. It was during the time, and that was what they really focused on today during the appeal. And they concede that, and everybody concedes that, and if it's during the time, you have absolute immunity. So we'll see how it all works out. We have
Outback Steakhouse has
a great argument. We have an argument with, they conceded two major points today. In fact, I think it's probably a concession. You have to ask the lawyers, Todd, if you'd like to talk about it. But they conceded 2 points that I think were, by normal standards, if it weren't me, that would be the end of this case. But sometimes they look at me differently than they look upon others, and that's very bad for our country. You had a very big event yesterday, as you saw, in Georgia, where the district attorney is totally compromised. The case has to be dropped. They went after, I guess, 18 or 20 people. They wanted to go after a lot of other people. They wanted to go after senators. She was out of her mind. Now it turns out that that case is totally compromised. In fact, they say she's in far more criminal liability than any of the people she's looking at. So I think that when you look at what happened, where they pay a lawyer with absolutely no experience $700,000 who happens to be her lover or her boyfriend, and then they go on trips and vacations together, very expensive vacations together. And the reason they paid him so much because he was after me, because this way they can afford to pay him a lot more. It probably passes a certain test. And that's a very sad thing that happened in Georgia, and I would imagine that case is going to be dropped. Every legal analyst that I've spoken to, every legal analyst that I've read have said that case is so compromised now it has to be dropped. Very good people were very badly hurt by that case. It's a shame. Very good people. People did nothing wrong. They did nothing different than what Democrats have been doing for years and years and years, whether it's slates or anything else that you're talking about. But they were very hurt, and it turns out that she profited tremendously on that case. It's illegal. What she did is illegal. So we'll let the state handle that. But what a sad situation it is. I want to thank everybody for the fairness. We've been covered very fairly. Most people agree that we're entitled as a president to immunity. If you didn't have immunity, as an example, Joe Biden with the prosecutor, we're not going to give you $1 billion unless you get rid of the prosecutor that's after the company or his son or whoever it is they're after. But he wanted that prosecutor gone, and he's on tape saying it. Or you could say the horrible job he's done at the border where our country is being destroyed, or the horrible situation that took place. The lowest moment, I think, in the history of our country was Afghanistan, the way we withdrew. Not that we withdrew, but the way we withdrew. With shame, we surrendered. People killed, 13 great soldiers killed, many unbelievably, horrifically hurt, wounded, hurt. And hundreds of people died on both sides. Hundreds of people died. He could be prosecuted for that. So you can't have a president without immunity. You have to have, as a president, you have to be able to do your job. But if this didn't work out, if I wasn't given immunity, then other presidents, when we talked about today, President Obama with the drone strikes, which were very bad. They were mistakes, terrible mistakes. You really can't put a president in that position. So I think most people understand it, and we feel very confident that eventually, hopefully at this level, but eventually we win. A president has to have immunity. And the other thing is, I did nothing wrong. We did nothing wrong. The investigation of the election, which was a rigged election, everybody knows it. And if you just look at, they didn't use the signed documents, the lying to Congress, and the stuffing of the ballot boxes, all on tape. All of that information, as you know, was gotten from mostly government sources, government tapes, government files, and government stats. So it's very sad when something like that happens. You know, you wouldn't have inflation, but much more importantly, you wouldn't have had the Ukraine situation with Russia. You wouldn't have had the attack on Israel. We have a great economy, and we would be respected all over the world the way we were just 3 years ago. So I want to thank everybody very much, and we think we had a very good day today. The concession of these two major points was pretty amazing, and honestly, I'm very glad they did it. I think they did the right thing. Thank you very much.
Hit subscribe if you're new to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. T-Duck, thank you. Thank you so very, very much. Nicholas, thank you. To my super chat, thank you. My goodness, thank you so much, everybody. This is the problem with what Democrats were doing. They made a stupid, absurd, grandiose leap of logic every day for the past 7 years. They thought the Helsinki conference between Trump and you-know-who was worse than Pearl Harbor. These people have taken their sensibilities and they have tried to infuse liberal Democratic Party sensibilities into the law. You cannot infuse your sensibilities into a criminal trial. You can't say that Trump tried to overthrow the government because you think that he knew that he was wrong. Because your rebuttal to his claims is not enough. He has a counterpoint. That's called a discussion. What Democrats don't want is anyone to debunk their efforts to debunk. And so that's called an actual argument and a discussion. Democrats like to say, fact check. That's it. End of story. Trump lied. And then you find out Trump didn't lie. And then you find out Trump had a point. And then you find out Democrats were the ones who lied by omission. When Trump says things weren't fair a couple of years back, he didn't accept results. He had his initial claims. Democrats in media said, false, we spoke to a county official. False, we spoke to this expert. False, we couldn't find anything. End of story. No real Mueller probe investigation. No testimony before Congress. No Federal Bureau of Investigation involvement. No nothing that they had with the Mueller probe and other. They had no district attorneys going to bat for Trump. Trump never had the same type of investigation that Democrats had all the time when they accused Trump. So you're not going to get Trump just simply giving up on his claims, because we're talking about Tammany Hall. We're talking about Democrats and their ability to DNC primary everything. 2016, Bernie Sanders. The emails, the DNC emails showed that Bernie Sanders was completely railroaded. Then Democrats and media turned that into, sorry. How is it now? How is it now, ladies and gentlemen? Audio better? Audio better? All right. Okay, good, good, good. So it's better. So so all right. So basically what took place, ladies and gentlemen, is sorry about that. Grandiose, absurd leaps of logic. They made really stupid leaps of logic. They said that Trump, because we don't believe Trump had evidence with his claims, therefore he committed a rebellion. Do you understand what the problem here is? The stupidest, most absurd leap of logic. And hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, T Duck, thank you. Thank you so very, very much. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated. Do you think, ladies and gentlemen, um, what took place was the following? Okay, Democrats infuse their sensibilities into the law. And hit subscribe if you're new to this channel. They make absurd leaps of logic and they accuse Trump of things he didn't do. So, for example, they said that he tried to overthrow the country, foment a rebellion because his claims were not backed up by media. He did not have a special counsel to investigate those claims. He did not have the Federal Bureau of Investigation to help him investigate those claims. He did not have Congress to investigate those claims he made. And the rebuttal from the fact check, from the endless vanguards of democracy within journalism, is not enough to refute anything Trump said. Because most of these fact checks are, oh, we spoke to a county official. And the county official said that these people were wrong. And then media ran with it. And then judges said, well, where's the hard evidence? Which is true. There was no hard evidence. Trump did not have hard evidence that the election was stolen. So Trump did not have any direct evidence that things were stolen. But they had no evidence that Trump was a Kremlin operative. And yet they investigated for a year and a half to 2 years congressional testimony, Federal Bureau of Investigation involvement, endless millions and millions of pages of information, and exactly, Phil B. Me, hello, thank you again. And they never stopped investigating. They never stopped investigating. And so then they say, well, Trump mustn't have known that he was wrong because nobody sane would continue. It's like, well, you're the Democratic Party. You cheated your own candidate in Bernie Sanders in 2016. And emails that showed that Debbie Wasserman Schultz resigned because of those emails showing that Bernie Sanders was railroaded. What do you think? Trump's going to just think that you're fair? And I mean, you have all of these bizarre anomalies taking place. People were afraid to get you know what, so more were there were so many anomalies. Let's put it that way. Trump had every right to make the claims that he made, and had he been given the support of the entire Republican Party, let's say Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan and Liz Cheney all supported him 1,000% the way Democrats and Schumer and Pelosi support Democrats, you would probably have a much different view of what Trump was doing. And you'd probably find, if you had congressional testimony and you had the Federal Bureau of Investigation involvement, you'd probably find a lot more of information pertaining to misconduct when Trump lost regarding the Democratic Party. But you didn't have testimony before Congress. You had a reporter asking a county official to debunk Trump. And then the headline is debunked. And then the judges say, well, there's no evidence, so that's it. And then the judges were right. There was no direct evidence, but you weren't going to get that within 2 weeks, within 3 weeks. You would have had to have a serious long-term investigation. Okay, Trump didn't have the luxury of the DNC emails showing that Bernie Sanders was completely stomped on by the Democratic Party. So, yeah, he had every right to make his claims. His claims did not lead to any rebellion. You'd have to be a complete imbecile to believe that Trump tried to overthrow the country. But then again, you have Democrats. They make the stupidest claims of all time. I really actually I thought that he would be immune from the speech. I didn't know that what they would allow him to do. I thought that he would go past November, but I didn't predict that the Supreme Court would essentially hand him an immunity victory in this magnitude. I knew that he would not be convicted. So, I mean, you compare everything that I've been saying to all of these channels on the left, and I obviously support Trump. I'm conservative on most things nowadays. But you look, Trump is petrified. Oh, Trump is on the ropes. He's on the ropes. Trump is on the ropes. Oh my God, Trump, he's going to prison. And the opposite is true. Trump keeps winning. And the system that the Democrats love so much is actually imploding their stupid arguments. Their absurd, completely unconstitutional arguments. Trump was handed a victory today with immunity. He was given essentially immunity because a speech is not a crime. It is only a crime if you give specific instructions to commit crimes within the speech. He didn't do that. Say it slowly, wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats who lost yet again today. A speech is not a crime. Rob White, Dems. Logic critical, exactly. A speech is not a crime. That's why the Supreme Court handed him immunity for the speech. And then they say, what if Trump tried to sell the country to Martians on Mars? What if he tried to commit? Then he would have been convicted because that would have been a crime. You know what? If Trump had private servers, he would have been convicted. That's a crime. But no reasonable prosecutor would indict Clinton, who, by the way, I believe that Hunter's laptop is probably even worse than Hillary Clinton's servers, which I've spoken endlessly about. Because Clinton's servers, it's illegal to own servers. It's highly illegal to put classified data on them, but they probably got some kind of tacit approval from President Obama, which still is illegal, highly illegal anyway. But no reasonable prosecutor would indict. With Hunter's laptop, there's clear bribery and graft schemes there. The New York Post published emails with clear illegal activity, and then the Democrats said, oh, we indicted this government official. Oh my God, everything is so embarrassing. It's like, no, it's not. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? It had nothing to do with the bureau agent. It had everything to do with the New York Post reporting. The New York Post reporting shed light on everything. But let's continue here. This is Chuck Schumer. Let's see if they're going to indict Chuck Schumer for this. If Democrats care about the rule of law.
Rights. I want to tell you, Gorsuch. I want to tell you, Kavanaugh. You have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions. The bottom line is very simple.
What? And then you had somebody try to take the life of Brett Kavanaugh. And then you had somebody try to take the life of Brett Kavanaugh. the Supreme Court justice. Do you think maybe there's a correlation between Schumer's words and what took place with Justice Kavanaugh? I mean, we could just go here, right here. Did Chuck Schumer put Justice Kavanaugh at risk with his words? I spelled Kavanaugh wrong, but you get. So did Chuck Schumer put a Supreme Court justice at risk with a clear it's right, it's right there. It's right there.
Fundamental rights. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions. The bottom line is very simple.
Where are the liberal Democrats in anger, in outrage? Those words directly led to a man trying to take the life of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Where's the special counsel? Where's the special counsel? Oh, that's right. It wasn't Trump. Marta, thank you. To my super chat, thank you. Oh, that's right. It wasn't Trump. Oh, okay. Exactly. No. So that is Democratic Party hypocrisy on full display. On full display. And then you had in Congress Senator John Kennedy, Louisiana, bring that up.
From Ranking Member of the Court Subcommittee, Senator Kennedy of Louisiana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Americans may be poorer under the Biden administration, but they are not stupid. They know what's going on here. I remember the Democratic leader's words of March 4th, 2020, on the steps of the United States Supreme Court, like they were yesterday. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, he said, not Justice Gorsuch, Gorsuch. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions. Wow. Just wow.
Wow is right.
I think Matthew 12:36 is correct. For by thy words you shall be justified, and by thy words you shall be condemned. Now, the sad truth is that some, not all, some of my Democratic colleagues have been on a crusade to undermine the United States.
If you are within 20 years of
legitimacy and the credibility of the federal judiciary for years, Today's the next chapter in their federal. The Democratic leader's words of March 4th.
So you heard Schumer. You heard Schumer. And I want you to hear Senator Kennedy again of Louisiana. By the way, Marta, T, and everybody here, Nicholas, T, Duck, everyone here, thank you. Thank you. To my super chat, thank you. I want everyone to hear Senator Kennedy again, because everyone in Congress and everyone in the country knew exactly what Chuck Schumer did. And they knew exactly what took place with Justice Brett Kavanaugh. And you see that the chaos and mayhem is coming from one direction, mainly the Democratic Party, mainly people to the left of center. Okay? You don't see conservatives stopping traffic. That happens all the time with people on the left. I mean, it's like the billions and billions in property damage, and they focus on one day. And I agree with why people demonstrated peacefully that summer. But you have to be kidding me. You focus on one day, and then you ignore billions in property damage, lives lost, and the businesses owned by people of color that MSNBC and CNN and others do not ever mention that were destroyed. What happened to those businesses? Loss of income, loss of capital. No outrage by AOC and others. It's unbelievable. Like, it's just the hypocrisy is unbelievable. Let's listen to this again.
I remember the Democratic leader's words of March 4th, 2020, on the steps of the United States Supreme Court, like they were yesterday. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, he said. Not Justice Gorsuch, Gorsuch. I want to tell you, Gorsuch. I want to tell you, Kavanaugh. You have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions. Wow. Just wow.
That is categorically, objectively worse than anything Trump has ever said. That is categorically worse than anything that Trump has ever said, without any attempt at imprisoning or convicting the Democratic senator. It's categorically worse than anything Trump has ever said. And the hypocrisy is unbelievable. But that's the arrogance and the hubris of today's Democratic Party. It's mind-boggling. It's unbelievable. But the Supreme Court ain't having it. Supreme Court ain't having it. So you can go ahead and you can replay selectively edited videos at MSNBC and CNN, and you could just say that Trump tried to commit a rebellion, and you can get, a whole lot of people thinking that Trump tried to overthrow the country, but at the end of the day, it ain't going to work at the Supreme Court. Your stupid leaps of logic, your absurd, completely irrational leaps of logic are not going to work. It was a speech. End of story. The Supreme Court today gave him immunity for a speech. They would not have given him immunity. They would have fast-tracked and allowed everything to take place with the special counsel if he actually did try to overthrow the government, because there would have been evidence. There was zero evidence his speech directly led to anything. Just like there's no direct evidence, and this is the issue here. Schumer, when he made a direct statement to a specific justice, there's still no direct evidence that his speech reached the ears of an individual. Well, we know actually the speech did, but you can't. Schumer is protected by the First Amendment, so is Trump. Trump used the word peaceful, by the way. Trump used the word peaceful. So there you go. I mean, if you're Donald Trump and you use the word peaceful, you're literally telling people to go peacefully. It's still not enough. If you're Chuck Schumer and you're actually singling out a Supreme Court justice, Democrats don't care. The rule of law doesn't apply to a Democratic senator. So you make these leaps of logic that are so absurd and irrational and ridiculous. And then you wonder why the Supreme Court completely shuts you down all the time. And wait for the 9-0 decision. By the way, be here tonight. I will for sure have a 10 p.m. Eastern live stream. I usually, the past couple of days I haven't, but I will have a 10 p.m. Eastern live stream tonight. This is a huge, historic, momentous event, ladies and gentlemen. The Supreme Court saved democracy today from the most apoplectic, the most hysterical, irrational political partisans that we've seen in a long, long time in this country. This was a huge victory for democracy. Don't ever accuse Trump of something he didn't do and expect the Supreme Court to go and back you. If Trump singled out a liberal Supreme Court justice in the manner that Schumer did, he would have actually been convicted. He would have, I'm not joking, he probably would have been convicted and imprisoned. If Donald Trump used the same words as Chuck Schumer for a liberal Supreme Court justice, Donald Trump would have been convicted and imprisoned. But Schumer and Democrats, the arrogance and hubris, it's amazing. The vitriol and the venom and the indignation and the outrage only goes one way. Okay, and here's the problem. Democrats and liberal Democrats and the wonderful morally superior progressive, mainly Democrats on the left, they created a world where tribalism reigns supreme because most of these people are atheists, so their religion is politics. Okay? I put friendship and family above politics. Politics is just, it's my job. It's something I enjoy. I've written a lot about it, but I put family and friends above politics. And I know that there's a higher power, and I know that God watches over pretty much everything. But Democrats, many of whom are atheists, no problem. That's fantastic. I love Christopher Hitchens very much. But their God is MSNBC and CNN. Their afterlife is here and now with social acceptance and groupthink. They worship liberal political party ideology. That's their religion. Their God, their deity is social acceptance, groupthink, disliking Trump, because disliking Trump is a social status among Democrats. It's nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with what's best for the country. If you really cared about what's best for the country, you'd put your dislike of Trump aside and vote for him over any Democrat in 2024. Nicholas, thank you. L.E., thank you. Nicholas, thank you so very, very much. T-Duck, thank you again. And to my viewers in Australia, in the Philippines, in the UK, in Canada, Nepal, Sweden, around the world, you do have the same political, issues. You have the same. You have your type of your Democratic Party in your country. They always want to seem like the most compassionate and the most just, and the care. And you see the left, workers, working class, man, and oh my God. And then they redefine words. Do you want to know why the left redefine words? They redefine words because they can't win using existing language. They can't win an argument using language as it exists. So they use euphemisms, which are verbal refuse. George Orwell called it euphemisms of verbal refuse. That's why Democrats always use euphemisms. That's why people on the left always redefine and words and change definitions and use euphemisms, because a language as it exists, if you were to utilize language as it existed before, like last year or 2016, basic logic would dictate that most, or at least a lot, of the liberal or progressive positions on foreign policy or domestic policy are completely irrational and counterproductive. But then they redefine words, and so there you go. Then there's a consensus of experts, and the experts who disagree with them are controversial. Oh, okay. Oh, they're controversial. But you're not controversial when you try to redefine society. Anyway, hit subscribe. Trump is a great president because record low poverty, record highs in household median income in 2019, inflation low, interest rates low. Inflation is through the roof. The only thing keeping it at bay is interest rates. You had mortgage rates that are double now. Mortgage rates are 7 to 8%. Mortgage rates were 3% with Trump. Ain't got nothing to do with Trump's personality, or I believe in God. I don't believe in a human being. But the knock on Trump is that, he's a cult leader. He's a god to these people. No, he's not. He's just awesome. He's hilarious. He's just hilarious. He has the entire American political establishment. And he keeps winning and winning and winning and winning. So he's pretty awesome. Okay, nobody says that, Democrats think Biden is a god. They voted for him. Democrats voted for a man who couldn't put two sentences together. So which one is the cult? The president who was a great president in terms of the economy and foreign policy? I like Trump not because I worship him. I like Trump because he's a great president in terms of the economy and foreign policy. Hit subscribe to this channel right now, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you all. Democrats, Republicans, if you're American and around the world, God bless you. Hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you so very, very much. I'll be back at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight. Huge